So now we can see what I call my pyramid of power. That's us down at the bottom. The poor, long-suffering public. Over us is the low-level political structure. There's your local city council, school board, and stuff, most of whom are good people trying to do a difficult job. A few snakes in there, but you know, as we learned in the Army, there's always 2% that won't go along with the program. And your mass media. And this thing maybe that disturbs me most about the mass media, having worked in it, it's not that they're bad, it's not that they're liberal, it's not that they're conservative, it's that they're dumb and they're lazy, okay? They don't want to work, so they will not go out and really pursue a story or look past the superficial explanation. They just take the government handout and they run with it. And this really bothers me because, you know, I think about it in our own personal life. If you have a good friend and you find that friend is lying to you, then that upsets you. But that's a friend, so you try to forgive them and you try to rationalize and think, well, maybe they just didn't understand. Then you catch them lying to you again. Well, now it's going, boy, I don't know. Third or fourth time they lie to you, they're no longer your friend, are they? I used to just say, I don't want to have anything to do with that person. He's a liar. Well, the government has got caught lie after lie after lie after lie, and still they come out and say something and the news media just runs with it as if that's the gospel. And then it takes 6 months, 6 years, 40 years for us to find out that it was all a big lie. Then you come on up to your military intelligence agencies and your high-level political structure. Then you come on up to the multinational corporations and the hub of the New World Order, the United Nations, and it's now military arm, NATO. Okay, and then you come on up through the Council on Foreign Relations, and you notice they're not even at the top of the pyramid, because you get up higher and it even gets higher, and then you get up to John Coleman calls the Committee of 300, others call the Illuminati, and then you got a big question mark, because who's telling those people what to do? Now we start into real history. I'm not going to really belabor you about Freemasonry other than to tell you that you might want to be aware that the first third party in the United States was the anti-Masonic party. And they broke the back of Masonic Freemasonry back in the early 1800s, and it never quite recovered until after the Civil War. Within Freemasonry, this isn't my theory, this is what Masonic historians and writers will tell you, if they're honest. There's a huge outer circle. Well, first let me say this. There's a tremendous difference between European Freemasonry and American Freemasonry. The European Freemasonry is much more sinister and has much more ties to politics and to the Illuminati. But the North American Freemasonry is much more of a kind of a fraternal order, and they do great things. Their burn centers are wonderful. But within Freemasonry, in both sides of the ocean, there's an outer circle, and then there's a little inner core circle that knows what's really going on and what their agenda really is. Now, don't bother to ask a Masonic friend if that's true, because he will tell you no. And that's because he's either part of the outer circle, in which case he really truly does not know that there's an inner circle, or he's part of the inner circle, in which case he's taken a blood oath never to reveal that. Okay? But Freemasonry is where a lot of these thoughts, ideals, and knowledge has been passed along, because the men who made up Cecil Rhodes's roundtables, which were the progenitors of the Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral, etc., were Illuminized Freemasons. They were Freemasons who had been instilled with the knowledge and with the agendas of the Illuminati. And what was that? Where did they think they got all this from? Well, here's Manly Wade Hall, a philosopher, a much studied occultist, and a very high-ranking Mason. And he says, in the remote past, the gods walked with men, and they chose from among the sons of God the wisest and the truest. And these they labored with, preparing them to carry on the work of the gods after the spiritual hierarchies themselves had withdrawn into the invisible worlds. With these specially ordained and illumined sons, they left the keys of their great wisdom. These illumined ones founded what we now know as the ancient mysteries. George Washington, big Masonic. So they're passing along the ancient mysteries through Freemasonry. By the way, if you think that the Illuminati is just something you can laugh at and just some kind of boogaboo, here's a letter in 1782 from George Washington where he said, "It was not my intention to doubt that the doctrines of the Illuminati had not spread to the United States. On the contrary, no one is more fully satisfied of that fact than I am." These guys knew more about what was going on than we do today with all our modern technology and all our electronic communications. I could spend a whole program talking about Washington, D.C. and the layout of the streets and how it was all built by Masons, and that how the floor plan, street plan of Washington parallels Virgo, which has always been associated with the Egyptian goddess Isis. Okay? So these people, and by the way, if you're not aware of this, some of you are, some of you aren't. Every time there's a space launch, okay, it's always at a certain time and in a certain manner to conform with astrological numbers. Okay? Somebody somewhere still has a great concern about the stars and what's happening. All right, there in Washington, D.C., there are 23 major zodiacs in that city, more than any other city in the world. One other thing you're going to love, I don't think it's not on this map. In the earliest plat of Washington, D.C., all the lots are numbered, except one. You get up to 665, and then it jumps to 667, 668. So what's missing? 666, 666. And guess what sits on that lot today? The capital of the United States. Now, it's accepted by historians that the French Revolution was fomented by the Illuminati. And here's a picture of Adam Weishaupt, who founded the Bavarian Illuminati, and he was only carrying on traditions and knowledge that came from even much older things. And I think it would be worth quickly to look at the 10 steps offered by Karl Marx in his Communist Manifesto, and if you'll compare this to Illuminati writings, you'll find that their goals have always been the same. And as I read these, I want you to think about where we are in this country today in relation to this topic. Abolition of private property. Not there yet, but they're working on it. Now we got wet zones and United Nations zones and whatever. A progressive or graduated income tax. Well, we got that. Abolition of all inheritance. They're working on that. Confiscation of property of dissidents and immigrants. Homeland Security's got that taken care of. Creation of a monopolistic central bank. Well, that was done back in 1913. Centralize all communication and transport. Well, see, when Karl Marx offered this, he was thinking in terms of state control. Today, it's corporate control. And instead of the state running the corporations, today, I think in this country, it's the other way around. Control of all factories and farm production. Again, corporate control. Central ownership of capital with deployable workforce. That's us. Oops, got to move from Silicon Valley. No more jobs. Got to go somewhere else. Blur the distinction between rural, country, and cities. Boy, that's being done. I moved to the country 22 years ago. It was a wonderful little place. Now I go down there, there's McDonald's, Sonic, Krispy Kreme donut shop. You know, might as well be in Fort Worth or Dallas. Free public education for all children, which on the surface of it sounds like a wonderful idea, and I'm all for it. I think every single kid, no matter where he comes from, no matter what color he is, no matter what, should have a shot at learning the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. But folks, that's it. After that, if he has aptitude, he should be able to go on. If he doesn't, he should go to trade schools. This thing, education has turned into a huge monster. And look what's going on in education today. And look what, you stop and check what they're being taught. And today, they're not even being taught. What's important is they have to feel good about themselves. That's why they're trying to do away with grading systems. That's why they're trying to do away with the SATs and all like that. Well, we don't want somebody feeling left behind because they can't pass those tests. We want them to feel good about themselves. Well, all I can say is how good about themselves they're going to feel when they're 50 years old and all they can do is sit on the street corner and sell pencils. You know, you got to have that education. And they're not getting it. The dumbing down of America is not just a catchword. It is actually happening. So all of these things that were advanced by the Illuminati long before even Karl Marx are all agendas that are still being pushed along on us. And where did they came from? They came from the Knights Templars, who built these wonderful cathedrals such as Chartres that has stained glass in it that is so luminous that modern science cannot explain how they do that. Here's some of the stained glass from Chartres, and you can also see the similarities between the Chartres at the bottom and the Al-Qaeda Mosque in Jerusalem's Temple Mount. They brought back knowledge from the Middle East. Again, look at the striking similarities between these Egyptian artifacts and artifacts in Jerusalem. You've got a black Madonna that you still find in southern France compared to Isis. Over here you've got the winged person from Egypt, and another one that was found in a 9th century BC Jewish palace. It's all the same information, folks. It's all the same. We've been taught that here's all these different empires and civilizations. It's all a continuation. This is a great one. At the top, of course, you can see the famous Egyptian winged disc that Sitchin and others says probably represents the planet Nibiru. And in the bottom is a crop circle. Probably a hoax one, but it shows that somebody's still thinking in terms of the winged disc. Now this brings us to the mystery of Rennes-le-Château. And for those of you that have read Holy Blood, Holy Grail, the Messianic Legacy and all like that, they go into this in great detail, but they never really quite just tell you what it really is, other than the fact that there apparently is some fabulous treasure buried over in the caverns and cave systems that honeycomb the foothills of the Pyrenees there in southern France. And I was there 2 years ago, and it is an amazing place. It really is, and the stories are all there. Poussin, the artist, apparently was onto some of these secrets, because in this painting up here circled in red, he seems to be giving us a fleeting glimpse of what? The Ark of the Covenant. So there's all of this knowledge that's being passed along. Here is again the Masonic and zodiacal street plans of Washington compared to the same. You see the same geometric designs being used to build Rennes-le-Château. Again, we see the same knowledge being passed down. Here's what you probably don't realize. Rennes-le-Château is on the far left corner over here, and if you connect these holy sites, you have a geometric pentagram that encompasses a 40-mile circumference area. Any of you that have read Maurice Shaitlin's book know about the Maltese cross that is in the Aegean Sea that you can only connect by getting a map and connecting these sacred sites. Again, ancient knowledge passed along. Some of it lost, some of it gets distorted, but it's all coming down through the secret societies.